Good afternoon, everyone. Our program is about to start. I hope you're seated comfortably and sipping your choice of drink. Before we officially start, we would like to thank our sponsors, Boysen and EEZ Coatings, for making this webinar possible. Thank you guys for your partnership and support. We would also like to share a couple of house rules to ensure a smooth event flow. House rule number 1. If you get disconnected, please use the same link in getting back in. If you get disconnected completely, don't worry. This will be available in the next 24 hours, and we will make sure that we also upload it on YouTube. Number 2, we won't have a live Q&A today. In the previous webinar, we noticed that there's just not enough time to answer all questions. We now understand that we will be needing more time to mull over the topics discussed and allow more time for consultation with Architect Ronnie. So instead of doing the Q&A after this webinar, we'll be moving it to the third installment of the Connected Webinar series. Details will be announced soon on the DNC Magazine Facebook page. I hope you're excited for this because this will now be your chance to ask all the questions you have about the ebook and the discussions today. So may I suggest you check out his ebook, Connected, and read it until our next webinar. Number 3, same as last webinar, we will be raffling off 3 copies of Architect Ronnie's book, Connected, to 3 lucky participants. So better stick around and enjoy all the discussions we have for today. Good afternoon, architects, students, and people who just love systems thinking. I am Lei Duanan and I am your host for today's webinar. I would like to thank you all for sticking around. I know that we have um, encountered tech glitches in the previous webinar, and we really appreciate your patience and understanding. So, hopefully, today's webinar will run smoothly. We also would like to hear from you. So, please type your shout out in our chat box. Please let us know from where in the country or the world you're watching. While you're doing that, I would like to tell you a little bit more about our guest speaker for today, Architect Ronnie. Let me just read my notes. Architect Ronnie Umang is a licensed architect and an environmental planner. He was one of the board top-notchers in the 1994 Architectural Board exam and was a member of several organizations who champion green and sustainable architecture, such as the Philippine Institute of Environmental Planners, Philippine Green Building Council, and Philippine Native Plants Conservation Society. He also held positions in the United Architects of the Philippines, or UAP, back in 2017 and 2018. He is currently the president and CEO of Umang Design Construction and Development Co. and Hoya Garden Corp. He wrote a book entitled Connected Regenerative Architecture Systems Thinking, from where we base our discussions for today. Here's a review of what we learned last week in the webinar part 1. Number 1, we have learned the difference between green architecture and regenerative architecture. Green architecture is all about reduction and doing less harm. On the other hand, regenerative architecture is replenishing what we have consumed. It's a kind of architecture that heals the damages brought about by our practice of building using finite resources like concrete. Number 2, we also discussed Anthropocene, coined as the sixth mass extinction of life. This contributes to ecological imbalances that causes pandemics such as COVID-19. Our situation has radically changed, and this change requires a new worldview or paradigm. This worldview should center on replenishing the Earth's lost resources by developing what we call regenerative consciousness. Number 3, we develop regenerative consciousness through different ways. Number 1, we can develop it by realigning with nature's rhythm through indigenous ecological wisdom that centers on biocentrism. Number 2, we do it through frugal innovations, which involve eliminating the elitism in all innovations. And number 3, social regeneration. Some of these will be discussed in webinar part 2. So we hope you'll enjoy the discussions today. In section 2 of your book, you have discussed the importance of aligning our actions with nature's rhythm. And I think you got the point across. However, not many of us are familiar with how nature works. Can you help us understand how our living systems work?
I would like to discuss about living systems design, which an architect should not create their own perception of an environment with lush landscapes just to thrive an ecosystem. Some of us to be able to have our architecture, our design will fill it out with a lot of plants, lots of trees, despite of cutting a lot of trees prior to the construction. I have experienced this before. In fact, we have this similar problem right now with huge developers that they are cutting a lot of trees, and they will, of course, after cutting these very important, very old trees, they will fill all the structures, the site development with manicured landscapes, with commercial kind of a landscape. These are exotic types of vegetations that you use, no? Which makes it really, really beautiful to the eye of the user, and they appreciate it very much, and that's the reason why these kinds of design thrive a lot. But the judgment directly influence whether the ecosystem degrades or improves over time. This requires architects to unlearn what they have been taught and learn the complex systems thinking. This includes accepting the fact that some solutions does not exclusively lie in technological advances, but instead it's a mixture of sustainable technologies and an understanding of the complex but network of relationship the building has with the underlying ecological processes of the natural system. I would like to show you an image which is a very famous tourist destination down south in Visayas. How many of you are familiar on this place? Okay, the graphic shows you a man-made forest in Bilar, Bohol. This is actually a 10-hectare massive reforested mahogany, all mahogany, which is actually an invasive species, which these species turn the place into a biodiversity dead zone. There may be insects, there may be snake or birds, but they don't nest there. They don't have food there. It is not their habitat. In fact, one of the audience, when I gave this talk, told me that they saw snakes in that part of one area of that man-made forest. I believe the reason why they are there is because they feel safe. They feel safe. They don't have a predator there. But truth of the matter is they will go out, they will leave this place because they don't have food. They will search for food. In fact, you won't be able to see any tarsier, which is endemic to that place. Tarsier is a very important part of that ecosystem. In fact, you won't be able to see it on any parts of the world. No? Please look closely on the forest floor. There's not so much growth, unlike any other forest. You will notice only a few perhaps grow there because through time they develop soil and that's the reason why they just grow. But perhaps due to its scarce nature also, but mainly because of this is mainly because of the chemical effect of the rotting leaves of the mahogany. It kills the soil, nutrients, and other substrate of the living organisms under that soil. So it's very, very important to understand which kind of trees are you planting. The ecological balance, once disturbed, plants and other living organisms on the food chain begin to die. It is imminent to recognize the value of native species of both flora and fauna of the specific place. We cannot just occupy and displace those biotic species and abiotic components of the environment. In fact, before we start designing, we need to specifically know what are the species that live there, what are the species that thrive there, what are the migratory species that goes there, and why are they there, before we can even start designing for the place. As I have mentioned earlier, we cannot just go in and tell the place that this becomes your territory and you will design whatever you want there with the kind of geometric shapes that you want, with the kind of lines, the kind of, even if you copy nature, even if you copy the shape of nature, if this is not the way living systems work, believe me, it will not co-thrive with the other living organisms on that place. You need to understand how they work there, how they thrive there, how they it's a community of species of ecosystem that lives there. So before you be able to design your structure, please understand what is happening on the level of these living systems. You cannot just butt in. Technical people need to unlearn or understand the genius loci, or the spirit of place. It is beyond what is written on our EIA, or what we call the environmental impact assessment, which sadly, according to my experience, these are all copy-paste documents, which is what we use, no? In fact, even some of the CLUP that I saw are not really reliable and credible, because how are you going to create a really credible documents if the cost that they allot, the local government allot for these kinds of documents is really very low, very cheap? How are you going to conduct studies such as a complex study for living systems with a very low cost? Therefore, you cannot expect a quality study for this. You can expect just a copy-paste system or a copy-paste document. So it's a very sad fact, and I'm sure you will all agree with me on this. We have to unlearn to understand that what is beautiful may not always be significant or relevant, for that matter. But I believe what is significant will always be beautiful. In fact, I would like to show you with the images on the screen. It will flash on you. It's similar to a decayed leaves or organic material, or similar to the wabi-sabi that I mentioned on the first part. No? We thought of it having no value, but here it taught us a very valuable lesson that nature never changed its cycle. It is how humans perceive what is beautiful to them. We can always use blooms as a decor. We can always say, oh, I don't like this crux, it's very ugly. Oh, I don't want this kind of patterns. It doesn't really align with the axis that I want, or with the pattern that I want. But truth of the matter is, this is the kind of natural systems that we're talking about. If you want to design with nature, then this is nature that you're talking about. All right? This is not the kind of nature that we think. This is not the kind of nature that we perceive. But this actually is what nature thinks, and we should adapt to that kind of thinking. For the equal shareholder of the place is built on the idea that humans and the built environment exist with natural systems, and thus the built environment should be designed to co-evolve with the surrounding natural environment. The building serves to enhance the relationships between people, the built environment, and the surrounding natural systems. And so therefore, upon considering these living systems, or how nature perceive their own natural patterns, upon doing that, that's where you get your inspiration to design. And then upon designing, suddenly your architecture becomes part of that environment, and so that becomes a relevant and significant, vital uh, 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 connection to the abiotic environment of that place. All right? It's very important that you really understand what's happening on that place to be able to design the kind of architecture that will adapt to that place. And this is, I can only see this from the indigenous people, the way they design, the way they construct their communities, the way they construct their houses. And that's the very reason why I included that into this topic, the heritable indigenous knowledge, because this is really, their knowledge is really very vital to what we want to achieve. Thank you very much, Lane.
Some of our viewers raised this question in the previous webinar. How can we correct our malpractice here in our country? What can we as a community and what can our government leaders do to ensure mistakes of the past that led to calamities like Yolanda be avoided?
Okay, for question number 6, thank you very much, Lay. Um, I would like to cite again the example of what I have mentioned on part 1. Yolanda clearly illustrates past, present, and looming danger since the early recorded history, but nothing bold was done to mitigate these natural dynamics. I have mentioned before that this already happened 100 years ago, and it keeps repeating with a much less typhoon, but it still made damages to the people of the typhoon belt area. No? We can still see that we are not prepared, or we made some solutions, we made some modifications, we made some systems, but generally, we never made any bold solution to mitigate these natural disasters. We are still the same people who are confused and doesn't know what to do on this scenario. In fact, as long as 5 decades ago, there has already been a confusion who will declare school suspension, and this same shamble persists up to now. We can see the local government, the Department of Education, the DSWD, or we don't know who's going to declare the suspension of the classes until we'll point fingers who's to blame. But this has been happening since I was a child. We've been having similar problem, and so who's to blame and take accountability for these recurring mistakes? Very, very shameful and embarrassing is what happened with the Yolanda and a lot of storms, and expect that this will happen again in the near future. Perhaps this year this will happen again during the pandemic. Expected that it's going to be a huge problem. Who's to blame and take accountability for these recurring mistakes? Is it the leaders who decides for the people, or the people themselves who empowered their leaders? Are we really a community of people that nurtures impunity by avoiding to meddle with tainted leaders? Or are our leaders so intelligent that they capitalize on empathy and compassion, romanticizing every disaster like this to easily get away with their accountability? Remember, every time we experience this, We show the world how resilient we are, but as for me, this is a show of our weakness with accountability. We don't let these people be accountable to the mistakes that they have done. We allow leaders and decision makers to manage or manipulate the risk for us. We are permitting them to control our lives and commit irreversible cyclic damages. These are, again, as I've mentioned, it's recurring. It will keep on happening again and again. But after these mistakes, we will let them get out of the situation, and then somebody else will do the same thing again. It repeats again. It comes in cycle. There will be more hazards in the coming days. It is nature's phenomena rather, but the people's response to nature's dynamics continue to be insignificant. The people should, this time, empower themselves, navigate their rights for a healthy and safe environment. So I will not look for a leader. I will ask for the people to empower themselves, because they are the only ones who can save themselves, navigate their rights for a healthy and safe environment, which is equally other living organisms, the riverine that supplies the channels water, the soil that grows our food, and the trees that gives us so much, are all entitled to the same privileges and rights that humans enjoy. Not because they are trees, you will just cut them. Not because they are ants, you will just step on them and kill them. Not because they are just insects, you will just shoo them away, and you show them your supremacy. Again, as I have mentioned on part 1, they are much more vital than humans. They are much more important than us. And so, we need to be able to coexist with them. We have the moral obligation to do the right thing. It is vital that we address and dismantle the systemic impunity and romanticizing our resilience and grit. We need intelligent and heart-centered conflict resolution practices to bridge the divide of our inherent woundedness, listening deeply. Another way of looking at this is to say that we need to focus on creating wealth, not just reducing poverty. What we can do is, to be able to do this, we need to disperse these wealth to the grassroots, the ability for them to earn, the ability for them to create things, which was proven by indigenous communities. As I have mentioned before, this was done and continues to be doing by the Ivatans and the Ifugao and the rest of indigenous communities. No? If they can do it, then why can't we do it? Thank you, Lay.
Now that we know what went wrong, what can we do to fix it? This was discussed briefly last week. I like that you put it simply. We need to be creative and frugal in our innovations. Can you explain further?
Frugal innovation was actually developed by Raju and Prabhu of India. They are students from Harvard, actually. It provides real practical examples of how we can all learn the lessons of frugality and the concept of prosumers, no? In a way that is both engaging and practical. It is also called Jugad innovation, with the Hindi meaning of an innovative fix or an improvised solution born on an ingenuity and cleverness. It is fun to see images of Jugad like what you will see on screen. You will be very amazed of how clever, or how the kind of life hacks that these Indian people are doing. You will see on the screen an aluminum can that was converted into a shower head. Right? You can see a lot of these going around in a social media. You'll be very, very happy to see all of this. Like an Indian guy selling his own version of the Starbucks espresso, right? Very, very cheap. I'm sure that's very, very cheap. And an improvised water heater that serves its real purpose. Okay? Just don't get really near by it. You might get electrocuted with that. You can see a lot more on the flashes on the screen. It's really, really funny. You will have fun looking at all these. You will have all day to look at this later on. No? But you can laugh all day and mock them, but the truth of the matter is they are actually on the verge of changing the world. We are looking at Elon Musk's SpaceX, but we are not aware how far these frugal innovations have actually gone. You can see next to your screen is they created a prosthetic leg out of Jugad ingenuity. No? Again, they were able to solve a particular problem, very cheap, very, very practical, taking out the elitism on innovations, and therefore they were able to have robotics and artificial intelligence, which are some of the big companies' focus right now. They're very, very good on doing this. No? Because of Jugad innovations, they launched their own mission to Mars. This was launched November 2013, and actually arrived around September 2014, I believe. They are the first from Asia and the only country who is successful on its first try. So, Russia, the NASA, and the Europe, and next is the Indians, no? which is called the Mongolian. You will not believe this. No? They budgeted the mission for $74 million US, which is staggeringly cheap than NASA's Maven Mars mission, which is about $671 million US. That's the budget for the Maven Mars mission to Mars by NASA. And what more is the SpaceX cost, which is ballooned to up to $10 billion US. But of course, they have different activity in Mars. No? They have a different objective there. But you can see how the cost differs. No? They made it very light to be able to create a much more cost of their mission. No? And they are now set for the second mission, which is called the Mongolian 2, no? Which is set to launch by 2024. So all the big companies and famous universities such as Harvard, Stanford, embrace Jugad concept. One of the well-known university, in fact, I just forget which university is this now. They actually even have its own course on Jugad innovations. People are craving for new solutions on the post-crisis gloom, with a more balanced lifestyle to help create a new economic system, a frugal economy. It represents an amelioration of the more excessive aspects of the 20th century: overconsumption and waste. And the bigger is better consumption model may slowly be sharing with a small is beautiful system of consumer value. So therefore, we are heading towards lesser and lesser. The smaller is better, no? Because we want to live less, because we don't want to consume more waste anymore. We need to understand that we are on the verge of the sixth major extinction, and this is the cause. This is caused by humanity. No? We are the ones doing this. We are the ones wiping humanity, and we are aware of this. Again, I'll show you the quartzite in Russia. These are done by humans. These are done by the most intelligent humans. No? So it is only us that we can reverse this situation. And as architects and designers, we must overcome the instinct to build things the way we always build. We should build more of less, the resources and harmful to environment. We must acknowledge the destruction that we have created and take responsibility for shaping a better future. Understanding the values of resources help us to handle them with greater care and respect, thus our ability to produce more with less. Now, I would like to show you an example which was also done by the Indians, Jugad innovation. This is what you call the Mythicool refrigerator, which was designed by Mansukh Prajapati, made of simple clay. So this is a primitive technology costing a meager 2,000 rupees that keeps vegetables and fruits fresh without electricity. Take note, without electricity. This helps people from rural places where there is no constant supply of electricity or no supply at all to get the luxury of cold water. They are also able to store their fruits and vegetables for about 3 days. No? An earth kitchen marries the old tradition, which is the next slide image that I'll show you. I'm very engrossed right now with a kind of primitive technology, how they use these kinds of things. A good example is this earth kitchen, which actually marries the old tradition and embraces the evolving needs of man. This concept actually deprived the neoliberal capitalists of the chance to acquire more wealth, because this spread, I'm talking about creating a very expensive kitchen, using LPGs, using the supplies that you need to be able to operate these kinds of, to be able to cook. No? Now, this time, a common tao can use the same practical effect or result, and therefore this will practically reduce a very huge disparity of wealth. The very reason why there are a lot of billionaires is because of us. We allow them to do that. We use their product. We buy them. No? We keep on buying gadgets. We keep on buying cell phones, which is some of us have at least 3 cell phones. No? The more cell phones we have, the better, because we project an image of we're better off. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot answer the 3 phones all at the same time. What I'm trying to say here is that if Jugad can innovate mission to Mars, why can't Filipinos innovate a single gadget that can do all its functions, doing the computer, doing the calling, doing the camera, all at the same time? Therefore, we will be able to function more efficiently without succumbing to the planned obsolescence that these giant brands are doing. No? You don't need to replace your phones every year, every 2 years, no? Because one phone will, or one gadget, or one equipment will actually suffice for our needs. No? Another very good example is the solar bottles, which is called 1 liter of light. This, you can see this as being used by Ilak Diaz on some of his projects, but this was actually, I think, originated from Jugad innovation as well. In some Philippine slums or even rural areas, solar skylights made from 1 liter soda bottles filled with water and bleach can provide light equivalent to that produced by a 55-watt bulb. Such an ingenious solution, especially on communities having no supply of electricity. You can imagine how creative our industry once we unlearn the things we used to think and do. Remember, we need to get back to things, the very basic things, unlearning the Western kind of education, and think of what we can do by creating linear, random, square solar tubes like what they're doing. We'll be able to create a much more beautiful lighting effect. No? It is far more interesting what architects and designers and construction professionals can do to regenerate place. No? I would like to give you an example of also of Jugad innovation on the level of what I'm doing. We started acquiring a 2-hectare land in Alfonso, Cavite, with the primary reason of productizing our architecture services and create a passive income by selling properties anchored on the concept of regenerative communities. Actually, the very reason why I arrived on regenerative architecture is because of a similar situation that I need to earn. No? Similar to most of us architects, I experienced the same project or similar cycle that having no project for several seasons, almost a year, and then having problems with clients as well. They will not pay you, they will find reasons not to pay you, and I'm sure we have common denominators on that. And so I was able to find a more prudent, a more practical solution. I told myself that I want something that whenever I give to the client, they will immediately pay me right away. So that brings me to a productized kind of architecture, a productized service now. And so we thought of going towards the landscaping contract. We plant, we buy mother plant, and then we try to grow bamboos. At the time, it's very saleable, and so that's where we focus at. And after that, I realized that I need to be more relevant than selling commercial plants, and so I thought of going towards native species, and so I focus on planting and focusing on selling on native species, the kind of bignay, anahaw, something like that. No? So we focus on that, and then I realized the value that it offers. That became the start of my regenerative architecture concept, and until it grew into something else, and now it becomes my brand, and now it becomes my. I created a competitive barrier about creating this kind of brand. Unlike before, the architecture that I'm doing can be done by all of the architects. Now, it can easily be copied. It can easily be done, and I became a commodity. Architects become a commodity. No, our service becomes a commodity that the client are bargaining our fees. No? And that's very degrading for me. I feel that I'm intelligent enough. I feel that I'm skilled enough. I'm gifted enough. So I told myself, I'm not going to sell this valuable output, valuable gift of mine with this kind of negotiation. No? I would like to sell it to the right people. I would like to sell my architecture to the person whom I want to sell. So this time, I'm the one who's going to choose whom to sell my property. So you can see on the pictures the evolution of Maca Forest Villas. How my wife and I slowly developed an old poultry farm. We were left with two large poultry superstructures and a barrack structure which is used to store feeds and necessities for poultry operations. You can see the pictures there, the aerial view, and how we acquired the structures. And from there, I thought of made several studies prior to buying the lot, buying the property. I really want to make sure that I can sell it. I really want to make sure that it is of value to me. I'm not going to pay for this. I'm not going to get this if I'm not going to earn from it. And so, with a huge help from some of our angel investors, we were able to develop slowly and turn it into a valuable and profitable assets. The next pictures will flash how it look right now. Please take note that there is no any expensive and sophisticated materials that we use here. In fact, they are mostly considered trash. And in fact, I consider myself as have a gift on trash. No? Such an excess of corten steel was you can look at the toilet here. The sink is made of a corten steel. It's an excess from our construction site, which was turned into a custom sculpted lavatory shown on your screen. River stones and bamboos were sourced within the area and but it made a very strong statement of the sense of place. The walls and floors are left in its natural state, embracing its imperfections and turn it into a very interesting place. You can look through also the bedrooms, the pavilions, the pebble garden, and the casita, which we turned this into an Airbnb rooms, and now I'm earning. This is a very sought after place here in Alfonso. In fact, we were featured several times already on newspaper and magazines now. You can come see it. I'm inviting you to see this place, and after this pandemic, perhaps, because right now Airbnb is having a very strict sanitation requirement, so we cannot receive guests as of the moment. So looking forward, we are on our way to actually creating our rammed earth now. On the same place, in Maca Forest Villas, we are studying different soil characteristics and structure and made a compressed earth floor. You can see on your screen again, it is made primarily of loam, clay, and a little mixture of cement. You can forgo cement as you wish, depending on the traffic load design. This actually reduced my cost by almost 80%. 80%, including labor and materials, because the soil and the loam comes from the same place where I dig the area. I have an excess soil, lots of it, no? Despite of designing the structures according to the slope, I still have to cut some of the soil. I discovered some clay, and I use it. No? And so I thought of using it as my part of my compressed earth floor. No? So we start using compressed earth floor in our dining hall and paving materials. With the right mixture of loam, clay, and cement, you can actually achieve the desired strength. We need not to quarry and be the cause of another environmental destruction, but humans, rather, as an intelligent species, can be the prime mover in restoring and replenishing Earth's abundance. We will create true parametricism that follows the natural living systems algorithm, and not the one like Zaha Hadid's parametric designs, but how my architecture will interact with on-site living organism. How will they benefit from it and not the other way around? And so on the screen you will see what I'm planning to do. I studied where the fireflies are going, the dragonflies are going, and I noticed that I have this dap on a particular area. I have dap, I have as is, which is a native species here in Alfonso. These are the plants that where these kind of living organisms go to. No? Of course, with the reduction of light, I will maintain kind of a dump area that they want. But what I actually wanted to do is where can they live, where can they stay, where can they a new habitat for them. No? So this is where I'm looking forward to. So we are on our way. We are on our way to our rammed earth wall, if only not for the Taal eruption, which erupted February or March, no? And then after which is the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, which really slows down our permitting process. You can see on your screens an example of the rammed earth walls. These rammed earth walls are 500-meter thick, rammed, compacted, either using manually or an equipment. You have the options of doing so, but since we will have it tested, we will need an equipment for this now. And so with this, we'll be able to create our first ever rammed earth house, which is also located here in Tagaytay. We're lucky to have a client who really wanted to have this kind of architecture and believe on the kind of advocacy that we are doing right now. No? So it really takes a kind of a client to have your kind of architecture. So you choose wisely when to use that scarce and non-renewable sand, gravel, and cement. We need not use cement all the time. If you don't need a very strong pavement, just use clay, loam, and a little cement for binder. But actually, cement will do. In fact, I was able to create a pond using a primitive technology. My pond is, I only use clay. No? In fact, the clay that I use, this is my trade secret actually, but I'm going to share it with you. I use the termite hill, which is made of pure clay. No? So that's what I use on this pond. But on my first try, it was a fail because there are a lot more earthworms are coming out of it. But I'm still improving it by creating a much more thicker clay. No, we tried about 4 inches, but this time I'll try for 6 inches up to 12 inches. I believe it requires 12 inches thick. You see, the idea comes from the natural pond or the river or the lake. No? If it retains water, then I will use the same system or process. I will use the same soil to be able to retain water. So, in a nutshell, I'll be able to create a concrete-less pond. No? So again, we need not to use cement all the time. Almost, in fact, I mentioned earlier, almost 65% to 75% of structures in our country are residential. So you can imagine half of this number will refrain from using cement and use regenerative materials such as rammed earth or engineered timber, similar to how the US and other developed countries build their house, and it will surely be a great relief to our environment. Now, this certainly is a huge reduction in carbon emissions as well. So, in a nutshell, frugal innovation is more than a strategy. It denotes a new frame of mind, one that sees resource constraints as an opportunity and not a liability. Thank you very much, Leigh.
This is my last question, architect. Aside from these frugal innovations, you also discussed a radical way of modeling our businesses. Can we now talk about the regenerative business model?
Well, new business models are developing innovations from linear to circular model to reduce waste, but brand strategy or advocacy, many companies are forced to improve value chain and develop more competitive advantage nowadays. Now, regenerative business model is broader than just a product. The whole systems thinking validates the process along the value chain and find ways to improve its competitive advantage. Now, what am I talking about? Despite of the circular model that we're embracing right now, regenerative business model is actually thinking of how are we going to make this process follow the thinking of regenerative systems. Now, the need us with abundant resources. It is time that we should recognize and give back to nature. In our business models, there is an urgent need for regenerative systems thinking. Ecosystems have inherent value and do not exist only for humans to abuse. No? Let us reduce the usage of fossil materials and energy as much as possible and opt for a healthier, renewable resources. We need to give up incorrigible excessive production of materials ending up as a monstrous waste. The knowledge of architecture and allied engineering essentially covets linkage to ecologists, indigenous knowledge, botanists, real estate broker, forester, biologists, farmer, entomologists, artisans, and craftsmen, otherwise isolated itself and produced egregious results where we are right now. Our situation now requires a so-called generalist, a regenerative practitioner, a regenerative systems thinking of rethinking new methods of design, production, distribution, and circularity along the value chain, in contrast to the traditional linear production in which products are designed, built, sold, and consumed, and end up in landfills. A better option, circularity, reuses discarded materials and put value to waste. It has to be systemic, starting from the conceptual and design stage, assessing the production flow. Which leads us to the so-called some of the stranded asset as investment. Actually, not. We have some of these currently. I'm going to give an example later on. The government actually owned a vast tract of agroforest, or termed as established timberland, which covers over 10 million hectares within the Philippine state. Despite the increasing timber shortage, which is having 200 to 300 cubic meters per hectare harvest, our timberland has the potential to generate more than at least $3 billion per year, as opposed to importing forest product spending of $1 billion annually. These timbers are protected under the law due to the decline of ecological health, but a greater thievery is happening on the mining sector. Look at what I have showed you earlier. No? It's covering a total land area of about 30 million hectares, or 45.7%, which is extracted mainly for the consumption of the construction industry. So, with this, we need a prudent handling and management of resources along the value chain and the end of life of products, which considers the good of the whole. People who uses natural resources to their advantage without considering the good of the common will lead to negative outcomes for everybody, as the resource of as our resource diminish. Exemplified by the traditional wisdom, which is the indigenous people are well aware of the long-run consequences of exploiting the commons, such as the Ivatans Matao fishers follow an old tradition, self-regulating rule by establishing a catch quota. No one is allowed to catch more than a specified agreed amount, while the Frugal has their traditional practice of shifting their crops on swidden land with a fallow period of at least 5 years and replace the trees for forest regeneration. So even before, they have been doing regeneration system. No? So each according to their needs control the actions of each individual. They cannot consume beyond the carrying capacity of the commons. Who's checking us? Who knows if we are consuming more? Nobody knows. Nobody's checking the Department of Public Works and Highways if between DNR and DPWH, who's going to check oh, we don't have construction materials anymore. You cannot get trees because it's lagban. No? Who will check these system flow? Nobody's checking this. The leader doesn't know what we need, and so we need to act on this. Actually, we need to understand that rather than doing the quarrying, we should rather plant more trees on a industrial level, of course, similar to what they're doing in Switzerland and Australia. No? New Zealand rather. No? They have these plantation, timber plantation on an industrial level. I think we should opt for this kind of system and option as of the moment. So it is an exaggeration, really, in living the good life with nothing. The real meaning behind the statement sets the lowest degree of minimal and simplest possible way of life. By living less, discovering what truly matters and important allows you to free up more on things for the right reason. Reducing waste and other creative, austere living practices are inherently environmental friendly. Resist the urge to acquire possessions in a belief that having more is good. Certainly, you do not want a trap buying a very expensive device again and again with lots of features you don't really need. That is programmed to self-destruct in a couple of years. Suddenly, you realize that being cheated yet, you buy another one because you want to maybe show your friends that you are well off and better off, and you have more projects. That's the reason why you're very busy. That's why you're handling 2 gadgets or 4, even 3, 4 gadgets, where in fact holding this, and then you're praising sustainability and green life. No, it doesn't really make sense. If you're doing this, you have to help also on a you have to do a whole systems thinking. Living too little to nothing will leave you in amazement. A minimalist lifestyle will give you a feeling of lightness, peace, tranquility, and build your sense of self. Nothingness is a virtue. It will unleash the most innovative solution in order to thrive. As of the moment, we are practicing this concept here in Alfonso. We live less. We live in the forest. We live according to what you want. There's no pollution. We have lots of oxygen. Actually, in fact, the trees are giving you the kind of life that I want. And so, in a nutshell, these regenerative architecture systems thinking will give us time to reflect, will give us time to think about what is important to us and how important humans on Earth. We need each other to be able to live a much more longer time on Earth. We need to coexist with other living organisms, or else they will be the one to wipe us out. Look at this, the dengue. Look at other zoonotic diseases. These are so-called non-powerful species, and yet it causes a lot of damage to humans. It can wipe out the whole of humanity, in fact. And so we need to realize that regenerative architecture is not a label. This is not another one of that isms which we are used to when we were in college, actually. This is not a trend. This is actually a matter of life survival of humanity. And if we wishes to have a much more healthier and comfortable life, we should embrace regenerative systems thinking. And so, I would like to thank you all for listening, for joining us on this webinar. I hope that you learned a lot, and you can email me, you can ask questions. I will be very happy to link myself with like-minded people. Thank you very much.
How do you face your problem when the problem is your facade? Expensive facade lifts are not necessary with the Construct range of products. Use Construct Permaplast to correct surface imperfections. Apply with high-performance acrylic skim coat for that even and smooth concrete surface. Use Construct Durafil fast-setting gypsum compound to patch holes on gypsum boards and overjoints. Use gypsum putty as finishing coat. And use Construct Tileworks all-purpose tile adhesive to install and fix ceramic tiles on horizontal or vertical concrete surfaces. And with all that, you're ready for your facade paint. With Boysense Construct products, beauty and perfection are never skin deep.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the discussions today. Isn't that mind-blowing? I hope you enjoyed them and learned a lot from Architect Ronnie. Architect Ronnie, thank you so much for discussing frugal innovations in living systems. Everyone, as mentioned before, we won't have Q&A today. Unfortunately, we really need to allot more time for that because we know you have a lot of questions. Instead, please save your questions for the next webinar. So this is the third installment of the Connected Webinar series. Details will be posted on the DNC Magazine official Facebook page soon. Before we start with our raffle, I would like to thank our sponsors again, Boysen and EEC Coatings. Thank you so much for making this event and webinar possible. You guys are the best.
In the stillness of the night, each person's hope to realize his dream continues to smolder even in sleep. A dream of a brighter future. A dream of a cleaner world for our children. A dream to fly high. We see you. This is our vision, that together we soar. The Filipino family's needs for their living and working environments are fast evolving. Every step you take, we are there to offer solutions. Our continuous innovation is underscored by our steadfast commitment to support you in your efforts to improve your homes and workspaces. Our facilities adhere to the highest standards in the industry. Our zero-generated wastewater program is the first of its kind in the Philippines. A close production system for minimal dust dispersal ensures a cleaner environment. We value excellence, and our people are proof of that. We provide lead-free, low VOC and odorless products that contain innovative ingredients to improve their performance. Products with antibacterial protection technology ensure that your family is shielded from potentially harmful organisms. We feel you. We have created strong international partnerships to give you products with your convenience in mind. Like paint with Teflon surface protector technology for walls that are easy to clean. We hear you. For the rainy season, our water-based roof paint will protect you, and you can rest in the knowledge that you and your loved ones would be safe in a dry haven when the heavens pour. We understand you. We have a heat-reflective roof coating. It keeps surface temperatures cool, which brings down your energy costs. Our water-based paint provides excellent hiding. You need less, so it saves you time, effort, and money. We care for you. We are one with you in building a cleaner environment for your family. We gave the world the first air cleaning paint with crystal-active photocatalytic technology. We share the Filipino spirit of wanting a better future for our families. We celebrate your milestones with you. Whether together or apart, as long as you are aspiring for a better tomorrow, we are there at your side. And we are committed to the country's future generation. We are one with you. We support deserving students and provide them with the means for an education. Even our country's wildlife, they too need help. We support you. Across the nation and beyond, we continue to explore new horizons with cutting-edge technology providers. We tirelessly offer you the best solutions to every unique situation. In all aspects, we strive to think ahead of you, the Filipino family, and provide answers to your questions and needs on the home and workspaces that you inhabit. We are explorers in our world. We are innovators in our craft. We have been your partners since 1953. And we are committed to continue understanding and serving your needs. Because we are Boysen.
Did you know that everything that Architect Ronnie discussed today is in his book, Connected? This book is available online for only 500 pesos. Moderator, please flash the guidelines, the order guidelines on screen. You can avail of this book in 4 easy steps. Number 1, visit the official Facebook page of Connected and fill out the registration form there. You can email that to connected_RAST@yahoo.com. Number 2, follow the payment instructions and email the proof of payment to the mentioned email address. Number 3, you will then receive the payment confirmation with a link to the ebook. Number 4, download the ebook and be connected. Easy, right? I mentioned earlier too that we will be giving away 3 free copies of the connected ebook to anyone who can answer our questions. We'll have the raffle in a few minutes, so I hope you're ready. So the first one who can type in the correct answer in our chat box would win the free ebook copy. Mr. Rex will be helping us identify who will be the first to answer our question. So Mr. Rex, I hope you're ready too. Okay, exciting. Okay, so raffle time. I hope you guys are ready. I hope you prepared your keyboards and your notes. We have 3 books to give away. So I hope you can answer as quickly as you can. So we have 2 fill-in-the-blank questions, and the third one is just a simple question that you can answer. It's just one word, okay? Are you all ready? Can I get a yes in the chat box? Okay, Mr. Rex will be helping us identify who will win, or in this case, who typed the correct answer first. Okay, first question. This is a fill-in-the-blank question. Do God innovations eliminate the blank in all innovations? I repeat. The question is, do God innovations eliminate the blank in all innovations? Type in your answers now. Okay, we're just checking if someone got the correct answer. Okay, someone won already. Okay, can I get the name? Mr. Rex, can I get the name? Okay, I'll just announce later, but someone won already, okay? Ready for the next question? Okay, this is another fill-in-the-blank question. The question is, to reduce waste, new business models should develop innovations from linear to blank model. Again, to reduce waste, new business models should develop innovations from linear to blank model. So, clue, this is a shape. Okay, please type in your answers in the chat box. Okay, we're just checking now. 1. Wow, you guys really listened. Good for you. Okay. While we're identifying who got the answer first for the second question, The winner, the one who got the answer for the first question is Andrew Justiniano. Thank you, Andrew, and congratulations. We will contact you soon where you'll get the ebook copy of Connected. Okay, we have a winner. The one who got the second question right is Jacobsen Montoya. Are you there, Jacobsen? Thank you for answering it and congratulations. Okay, are you guys ready for the third and final question for today? Okay. This is very simple and I think many will get this right. This was discussed in the latter part of the program. This rustic bed and breakfast in Alfonso, Tagaytay is designed and owned by architect Ronnie Yumang. The forest villa is named after a Tagalog word which means where good spirits reside. It was designed using regenerative architecture systems thinking and serves dishes using ingredients from its forest. I hope it opens up soon after the pandemic because many people will flock that after learning a lot about regenerative architecture. Please type in your correct answers now. Again, this rustic bed and breakfast in Alfonso, Tagaytay is designed and owned by architect Ronnie Yumang. The forest villa is named after a Tagalog word which means where good spirits reside. It was designed using regenerative architecture and serves dishes using ingredients from its forest. Okay, let's review the correct answers. So for number one, the correct answer there, the one that Andrew answered correctly, Jugad Innovations eliminates the elitism in all innovations. Number two, to reduce waste, new business models should develop innovations from linear to circular model. And then the third one, this rustic bed and breakfast in Alfonso, Tagaytay is designed and owned by architect Ronnie Yumang using regenerative architecture systems thinking. This is called Maca Forest Villa. If you answered Maca, then that's correct. Okay, congratulations to our three winners. So we have Andrew, who got Andrew Justiniano. The second one is Jacobsen Montoya. And then the third winner is Melandro Eniseo Pabalan. I hope I pronounced that right. Congratulations, Andrew, Jacobsen, and Melandro. Thank you for taking down your notes and thank you for listening today. This officially ends the webinar part 2. Thank you all for staying here and for listening to Architect Ronnie. We're very sorry that we can't have the Q&A today. Please save your questions, write them down if you must. And Architect Ronnie will answer them one by one in the next installment of the Connected webinar. Details will be posted soon on the DNC Magazine Facebook page. I hope you follow them too. Thank you and have a great night. Bye!